So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create an SEO topical map. This is how I build topical maps for clients and when I'm also doing consultancy. This is what the team's been trained up on, how to create topical maps. It's fairly thorough, it's step by step, so this video might be a little bit longer because creating a topical map can take a lot of time. But there's two pieces of content I've created for this video. There is the article, which the link will be down below. This is what we're going to be referencing. There's also going to be this sheet that you guys can get access to. If you guys go to this page, there'll be a big call to action. Enter your email. It's completely free to use. The topical map helper, I've named it. And then one other thing as well, when you do have access to this sheet, make certain to click on file and make a copy. If you don't make a copy, you won't be able to edit it. So very quickly, I'm going to run through the article build, the actual, the how to build an SEO topical map article, and then we're going to hop over to the actual spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you guys how to actually use this spreadsheet for a thorough topical map, right? So just very quickly, I'll run through the actual subheadings on this so you guys can have a little bit more of an understanding as to the importance of a topical map, why we're creating a topical map, and what you should be doing. So step one is obviously building the foundation. So asking yourself, like, what are the actual audience segments? So if we're creating a travel website, is it going to be families? Is it going to be couples? Is it going to be solo travelers that's going to be reading our content? The travel types, are we mainly going to be talking about flights, ferries, trains, road trips, or what are the actual primary regions as well? So which areas of Europe are we going to focus on? Is it going to be France? Is it going to be Spain? Is it going to be everywhere, right? So these are some questions that we want to be asking ourselves in the back of our head. Then we've got the actual demographics of the person. So, for example, interest groups, are they foodies? Are they history buffs? Are they wine connoisseurs? So, for example, asking yourself certain questions like that, again, you're going to get you're going to be able to gauge what type of content you actually need to upload through to your website. One thing to remember as well, when you're creating a topical map, a lot of people think it's just a list of keywords on Ahrefs or SEMrush, and you're just going to create those articles. In some cases, once you start asking yourself questions like, what interest groups are these guys in, or the people that are reading my website, what age groups are these people in, you're going to very quickly have a better understanding of what articles or what questions those types of people will also have as well, right? So then we've got age groups. So are they potentially people that are retired? Are they young couples, student backpackers? And then also like special interests. Are they do they love art? Are they hikers, for example? So we're really drilling into the type of person that's actually going to be reading our content. But again, this is more so to satisfy user intent when we're actually creating the articles. Step 3, we've got entities. So, for example, destinations could be entities like Paris, Normandy, French Riviera. We've got actual icons. So, for example, Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, so on and so forth. And then we've got like travel essentials as well. So, do people need, or where can people buy virtual sims, for example? What are the visa requirements, currency converters, etc., right? So you've got all of these different style of articles, and again, this is kind of this is more so for a travel site. And then we've got Google Trends and Wikipedia to broaden topics, and I'll show you guys how to actually do this in just a second. But you can use certain trends when it comes to topical maps, or you can use Wikipedia pages as well to find related articles. Now, one thing to remember when it comes to this section, especially when it comes to Google Trends, a lot of people think that you build a topical map and then you're done. A topical map is kind of ever growing. It's never really done. Like, for example, if we were talking about the history of the US, right? Every 4 years, you're probably going to need to update your topical map because they get a new president in. So just remember certain stuff like that. Like, things change, new items or new products come into play. Even if like you're an e-commerce store, for example, trying to build out a topical map, there's going to be certain things that come in and certain products that actually go out of market as well. Then we've got expanding with keyword clustering. So again, what we want to make certain that we are doing when we're uploading articles through to our website is the fact that we have got certain articles that are relevant to one another. So for example, if we're talking about dining, we could be talking about vegan-friendly restaurants, wine testing venues. We could be talking about 5-star Michelin restaurants in France, right? You want to be covering the topic in its entirety, but you want to be doing it a cluster at a time. So if we're only talking about, let's say, restaurants in Paris, for example, try to think of every single search variant within that actual cluster. If we're talking about seasonal events, for example, people might want to travel to France for their birthday, and then in that case, you might want to have a page talking about best birthday spots in France. So just think of certain things like that. Then we've got research competitors for new angles. So again, if you're starting a new website out, you might want to take a look at your 4 or 5 competitors that are dominating every single keyword and look at what articles that they have that you don't have. So again, if you're a newer website, you can't really go wrong with this step because a lot of the articles that they have, you're probably going to also need to have on your site as well. And then we've got organizing topics into content clusters. So for example, French destinations, cuisine, and travel essentials. Those are 3 different clusters. But for example, French destinations, there might be 150 different articles that go solely into that content cluster. There might be 60 articles that go into French cuisine. There might be 80 articles that go into travel essentials. So just remember this section, that's pretty important. Then we've got create a visual map with Miro. Now, I've mentioned Miro here, but there are various other tools that actually do this. If you guys have never used Miro, for example, if I do Miro mind map, this is what it basically does. It just creates a visualization of your actual topical map. Now, you don't need to do this. However, it's just good practice, especially if you're trying to visually see like what topics can I possibly expand on. One thing that I will say as well is if you guys have a much bigger website and you've got, like, for example, if you're mapping out 600-700 articles, visualizing it does become a lot easier with a mind mapping tool. There's a lot of actual mind mapping tools. You don't need to use Miro. So like, for example, if I had to search up mind map tools, there's a handful. Like mind map, that does a fairly good job. I actually have used this in the past before as well. So this is what it basically looks like. So as you can see, if you've got multiple articles and if you've got multiple clusters, you can understand as to why that could be a lot easier. Then we've got supplement with community insights. So this is pretty important because you can use certain websites like Reddit, Quora, and Pinterest to see what people are asking in those forums, and you can actually create an article on that. So for example, if somebody has searched on Reddit or if somebody's asked on Quora, do I need a visa from Vietnam if I'm traveling to France, you might decide to create an article on that. But then you can also, like, for example, if you were to create that article, you'll get other ideas. So like, are people from Turkey asking that question? Are people from Japan asking that question? So then you can actually create an actual cluster based off of Quora or Reddit and stuff as well. Then we've got leverage AI. So for example, if you're obviously using AI, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but just remember that you should be plugging in your pre-existing articles and mentioning to AI like, hey, I've got these 60 articles, what do you think is missing? And AI does a fairly decent job. That's how I mainly use it. Then we've got refine your topical maps. So one thing that to bear in mind when it comes to topical maps is that they are never really finished. Like there's products that come into market, there's products that go out of market. It's kind of ever growing, basically, a topical map. Like you might decide to do an initial topical map that might have, let's say, 600 articles, and you might then decide to execute that, And then you might say, right, okay, in 2 months' time, I'm going to add in, let's say, another 100 articles to that topical map. So that's been the actual article. Now I'm going to hop over into the actual mind map helper, or the topical map helper. But that's been the article. Feel free to give it a read. But this is the actual mind map helper. So what I've done is I've got 5 tabs at the bottom. We've got main questions, we've got main topic and clusters, we've got keyword and topic research, and then we've got content planning. All 4 are pretty important tabs. And one thing that I'll also do as well is I'll keep the dummy content in. So, for example, the actual answers that I've given, and then the main topic, the keywords, and the content planning, just so you guys actually have a understanding on how to use it. So let's actually run through the questions. So who is the actual target audience? And in here I've just said young adults aged 25 to 35 that are interested in sustainable fashion, and they're mainly professionals or digital nomads. Then we've got the actual user's main goals and needs. So to find eco-friendly travel destinations and tips for sustainable tourism in Europe. And what motivates the user to search for this topic. So they are motivated by desire to reduce their environmental impact while traveling and discovering unique, lesser-known destinations. Now, just based off of these 3 answers that I've given, right, that tells us that, for example, if we've got an article to do with travel destinations in Monaco, and if any of you guys have never heard of Monaco in Europe, it's pretty expensive. I feel like it's like £25 a pint. The hotels are like £200-300 in comparison to, like, for example, the south of France, where it's, let's say, £30 a night, and the pints are like £4 or £5, right? I mean, that's a very British thing to say, like calculating which areas to go to in Europe based off of how much the alcohol is. But the reason why I'm trying to drill that into you guys is, if, say for example, if we're talking about like some really expensive holiday spots and our website is to do with sustainable travel, let's say we've got the domain sustainabletravel.com, right? It doesn't really make sense for us to cover expensive areas in our topical map, whereas if we were to cover, let's say, cheap holiday destinations, it makes a lot more sense. Our users want to read it, it's actually matching the intent. So that's why I'm trying to drill into you guys. It's super important that you guys actually answer these questions. So then we've got, what is the user's likely search intent? So primarily informational content, learning about eco-friendly practices, but also commercial investigations, so looking for eco-friendly accommodations, right? So, for example, we could have pages on cheap Airbnb spaces in Mallorca, for example. So then we've got, where is the user located? So mostly based in the US and Europe, but interested in European travel options. So regional content like currency and seasonal insights matter. So for example, if seasonal insights matter, right? If we've got certain articles on, for example, what are the cheapest times to fly to Spain, right? That can definitely help our user. If we've got, for example, is it better to buy euros in France or when we're in America, right? That can also help our users. So think of these types of articles that our user would want. And also, another thing to bear in mind is some of these articles on Ahrefs and SEMrush, it will say that it's getting 0 searches, but these are basically 0 search volume keywords. Then we've got, what device might the user be using? So likely a mobile device while traveling and needing quick digestible tips, or desktop at home in-depth guides on planning and sustainable trips. So we've got basically 2 types of people, or 2 types of devices. And the reason why that is important is because when it comes to structuring our content, if we've got huge, massive, long paragraphs, the person on mobile probably doesn't want to read that. The person on desktop probably might, but the person on mobile just wants very quick snippets of text where they're like, oh, right, yeah, I've never heard about that tip, or I've never heard about that holiday destination. So this basically helps us figure out, like, is it going to be, like, for example, engineers that are constantly on computers using our looking at our content, or is it going to be somebody on an iPad, right? So then we've got what additional content formats could help with this user. So for example, if we've got interactive maps for holiday destinations, if we've got video guides, if we've got downloadable checklists, all those things can help our user. So again, think of what the user would want. Again, if we've got, like, for example, an engineering website, somebody that's into engineering and 3D printing, let's say, they might be more interested in a downloadable PDF, for example. So then we've got how familiar is the user with the topic. Some familiarity, they know about general eco-friendly practices, but need in-depth knowledge about specific sustainable tourism and options and best destinations. Now, the reason why I've included this is because it's super important for you to understand how much knowledge the person reading your content actually has, because again, you can further help them. Whereas if you're talking about, like, really basic things on your website and you're going after kind of like an advanced audience, like, for example, if I was talking about, if I had a video on my YouTube channel talking about anchor text, right, that's going to piss off a lot of my audience because they're not interested in anchor text. I'm going to assume that a lot of people watching this video know what anchor text is, right? But if I'm talking about how to build a topical map in depth, like what I'm doing right now, people are going to be way more interested in this video than A to Z's on anchor text, right? So just bear that in mind. Like, I always like to use myself as an example and, like, the kind of content I'm producing, but it's very similar to a topical map as well. Then we've got, like, what challenges might the user face with this the topic. So difficulty finding genuine eco-friendly accommodations. So for example, I know for a fact a lot of the websites in this space, all they do is they just place in the top 5 most paying affiliates. So for example, if I was to do eco-friendly accommodations in Barcelona, for example, right? So you've got obviously TripAdvisor, you've got EcoBnB, right? For example, I know for a fact the Hyatt Regency is going to be pretty expensive when it comes to being eco-friendly. Is that an eco-friendly place? Probably not. Whereas, for example, this isn't too bad, like €35. But if I was to actually look at the show prices here, if I do, like, for example, we'll do 2 nights. The Hyatt Regency, yeah, the Mandarin is not eco-friendly. The W is not eco-friendly. So this isn't an actual helpful piece of content. So just bear that in mind when you are actually actually doing your roundup pages, for example. Then we've got what related interests or questions might the user have. So interest in zero waste lifestyle, vegan dining options while traveling, ethical wildlife tourism, and renewable energy in travel accommodations, right? So this is very much for, like, an eco-friendly person that's actually looking to travel to Europe. This would very much differ if it was, for example, a retired couple looking to travel around Europe, right? Then we've got topical map questions. So these questions, these are more so for the actual articles questions, and this is more so for the actual topical map, right? So what is the core objective of the topical map? So what are we trying to do? I've just answered build for answer user questions or drive conversions. You can obviously pick whichever one that you want, or it could be multiple answers. Then we've got what are the primary keywords associated with this topic? What are the primary keywords associated with this topic? So identify correlated keywords, including seasonal or trending ones. Then we've got how does this topic connect with the user? How does this topic connect with other areas of the website? So identify related clusters for internal linking and align with the broader content strategy. Also, one thing to bear in mind is that one website might have multiple topical maps, and I'll get into that in maybe like 2 minutes time. but you'll understand in just a second why I'm saying a website can have multiple topical apps. Then we've got what format would best support the user's intent. So choosing guides, tutorials, FAQs, listicles, case studies, etc. based on preferred topic. So one thing that I would be doing for this is looking at like 4 or 5 of your competitors and saying like, have they got listicles? Have they got a lot of case studies? Have they got potentially a lot of tutorials? Or do they have like really in-depth guides? It might be a mixture of all 3 or all 4. But looking at your competitors can definitely help for this. So just maybe spend like 20 minutes looking at 4 or 5 of your competitors and looking at their top ranking articles and seeing, first of all, what type of article is it? Is it a listicle? Is it an FAQ? Is it a super in-depth guide? Then we've got what unique insights or value can our website offer on this topic. So leveraging proprietary knowledge, unique perspectives, or specialized resources to stand out from our competitors. So for example, my website, if I use this for example, all of my website or all of my articles, I want to be making certain that I have a video attached with every single website or every single web page. If you guys can do certain things like that, or if you've got super in-depth knowledge on travel tips in Barcelona, that can definitely help you. How often should this content be updated? So determine if this is evergreen content or requires regular updates for accuracy and relevance. So let me give you an example. If I have a travel website and it's talking about the best restaurants in Manchester, that article's probably going to need to get updated maybe either every quarter it should probably get updated or every 6 months. And the only reason I'm saying that is because restaurants in Manchester, if any of you guys are watching from Manchester, you'll know that restaurants in Manchester literally come into business and literally go out of business very, very quickly. There's been times where I've had friends, for example, saying like, hey, we're coming down to Manchester. Where do you recommend? And I'll recommend them a spot and they'll Google that spot and they'll be like, hey, Kaz, that place like shut down 3 months ago or 2 months ago. So making certain that you are keeping your content up to date can, again, help you very, very much. Because if, for example, if I've got a best restaurant or top 10 restaurants in Manchester page and 6 out of the 10 restaurants are all shut down or they've went out of business, if somebody lands on that page, it's not created a good user journey for that person. Then we've got what visual or interactive elements will enhance this content. So consider diagrams, charts, videos, or interactive tools to support users and understanding and engagement. So, for example, in this article, I'm going to have like images, I'm going to have videos. I also recently created an article on content pruning. So if I actually load that up, right? For example, this, to me, I feel that this is like one of the best articles online to do with content pruning because I've got maybe like a 30-minute video or a 25-minute video, and I've also spent like maybe half a day creating this infographic on actually content pruning. So is there certain things like that that you can include within your content to make it better? Then we've got a really important one, and this is important when it comes to monetizing your website, right? And that is, what is the best call to actions for this topic? So deciding if the call to action should encourage people to sign up. Do you want people to sign up to your mailing list? Do you want people to download a download a PDF? Do you want people to share that article? Do you want people to purchase an item? Or do you want people to phone you because maybe you're a service-based website, right? So all of these things you need to be asking yourself. Are there any SEO considerations unique to this topic? Address any SEO tactics, schema markup, for example, technical SEO, page speed for better search visibility. So if, say, for example, any of you guys are in e-commerce and you don't have, let's say, product review schema, that might be one thing that you might want to consider when it comes to building out your actual articles. Then we've got what benchmarks will be used to measure success. So define KPIs such as traffic, engagement, or conversions to track the effectiveness and impact of the content. So this is really important, right? The last thing you want to be doing when it comes to topical maps is just uploading 6,000 articles and saying, brilliant, I'm going to be ranking for 6,000 keywords. That's not necessarily the case. You want to be making certain that every article that you actually upload to your website is KPI'd. So is that article top of funnel, and is it going to just be there for driving lots of clicks? Or is that article, let's say, bottom of funnel, and maybe clicks isn't as such of a KPI, but conversions is more of a KPI? Or is it basically like is it a bottom of funnel, somebody that's actually searching for that keyword, they are ready to buy, they want to buy your service, and you're tracking, let's say, calls. Maybe they're calling your actual business, right? So there's certain KPIs that are important for every type of article. Not every single article on your website should be KPI'd by clicks. Because, for example, if we've got an article on the best, so if we've got an article, let's say, on the best running shoes for men, right? That might only get, let's say, 1,000 clicks every single month. But if we've got an article on how to run a marathon, that might get 10,000 clicks per month. So there's different KPIs that you basically need to be tracking your actual articles with. And obviously the best running shoes for men, that's going to earn you a lot more money because of the actual intent behind that. But how to run a marathon, that's going to earn you a lot more clicks. So just remember that. So now we've got main topics and clusters, right? So this is how I would actually cluster my website. So if I'm talking about French travel, right, the primary topic here is obviously France travel. Then we've got subtopic and cluster. So is it going to be Paris guide? Is it going to be French cuisine? Is it going to be to do with cultural and attractions? Is it going to be nature and outdoors? Is it just travel essentials for France? Like, what type of wall plugs do you need, or wall sockets do you need when you're traveling to France, right? So that's all of the different actual types. And then we've also got the actual target audience. So who is that article going to get read by? Is it going to be older couples? Is it going to be art lovers? Is it going to be adventure seekers? Then we've got the actual type of content. So is it informational? Is it transactional? You need to ask yourself that as well. Then we've got the actual content type as well. So is it going to be a guide? Is it going to be a review? Is it going to be a listicle? Is it going to be an FAQ, for example? You just need to bear that in mind. Now, for example, right, if I was going to do a full-on European travel website, I could also do, for example, Spain travel. And I could also have, for example, Barcelona guide. And this might be, for example, couples, right? A lot more couples go to Barcelona. It's more of a couple-friendly place. And for this, it might be more informational, right? And again, this could be a guide. So we've got that as another primary topic. So just remember, like, if I was going to do like Spain, I'm probably going to have all of these different subtopics for Spain as well, because things obviously change. Like, Spanish cuisines were very much different to French cuisine. It's very much different to Portuguese cuisine. Same goes with like the actual attractions. Same goes with like the outdoor and nature. Same goes with the travel essentials as well. So just bear that in mind. I'll obviously keep all of this in the topic map helper, but just feel free to just remove it. I'm keeping it in there so you guys can understand like how I'm thinking. Then we've got the keyword and topic research, right? And this is basically down to what you're obviously going to be talking about on your website. So we've obviously got, for example, the main keyword. So we've got Eiffel Tower. We've got supporting keywords as well. So this could be like 4 or 5 different LSIs. So for example, Eiffel Tower tours could be like another supporting keyword. And then the actual user question would be like best time to visit the Eiffel Tower. And again, there might be a variety of different keywords. So what I would be doing here, right, is if I search Eiffel Tower Paris, there's a variety of different ways that we can actually have multiple different questions. So, for example, what are 5 interesting facts about the Eiffel Tower? Do you have to pay to climb the Eiffel Tower? Right? If I am writing about the Eiffel Tower, like let's say I'm doing a big monster guide on the Eiffel Tower, right? I'm probably gonna, or I'm not probably, I'm gonna have to have this. Do you have to pay to climb the Eiffel Tower within that article, because it's very, very relevant. Then we've got, why is Paris Eiffel Tower famous? Is it worth going to the top of the Eiffel Tower? So again, like very much relevant to the actual keywords, right? So best time to visit the Eiffel Tower. So obviously you can mention within that question, it's a better time to visit the Eiffel Tower at 9 a.m. in the morning, because not as many people actually visit at that time. Then we've got, as a secondary question, do you have to pay to climb the Eiffel Tower? And then obviously you can say like, yes, you need to pay to visit or climb the Eiffel Tower. It's 25 euros. I don't know how much it is. And then obviously you've got, is it worth it to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower? And within that question, I would actually have like a image of the top of the Eiffel Tower. So you can obviously back up your case and say like, yeah, it's worth visiting the top of the Eiffel Tower because you've got like a really nice view, like fairly similar to what this guy's actually done here. It's also $65 to actually visit the top of the Eiffel Tower, which I didn't know. I thought it'd be a lot cheaper. So you've got all of those. Then you can obviously do the exact same thing for best French wine. So looking here and then looking at people also ask. This is like basically your best friend here. People also ask. I always use this when it comes to finding more relevant keywords. So, for example, what is the most popular wine in France? Is that relevant to what we're talking about? Yeah, definitely. So we've got all of those questions. One thing you could also do as well is look at the people also search down here. So you've got best French red wine, list of French wines alphabetically, so on and so forth. And these could be actual other articles that you upload through to your website. So I'm not going to go through every single one, but you guys get the point, right? So look at the people also ask, look at the people also search for, and that will actually help you create a hub of pages. Then we've got content planning. And this is basically the actual title that you decide. So, for example, Guide to the Eiffel Tower. That's basically what we're gonna actually have. The content title, you're basically trying to create like a fairly SEO friendly title. Don't just be super spammy. Don't just have Eiffel Tower, because 9 times out of 10 you're probably not just going to rank for Eiffel Tower. You're going to want to actually incorporate like guide to the Eiffel Tower or top 10 French wines. You're not just going to be able to rank for French wines. Same goes with like Louvre or Louvre art. You're not just going to be able to just rank for that. Then, for example, French Alps. So we want to actually have like an SEO friendly title, and then getting a SIM card in France. So those are all the actual content titles. Now I'm going to go quick fire through a few tips to actually help you guys when it comes to topical maps, right? So obviously, if you don't have any tools, if you're not paying for Ahrefs, you can obviously do, for example, reddit.com. And you can do like the keyword that we're trying to rank for. So, for example, Eiffel Tower Paris. And you can run through a load of questions. So, for example, is going up to the Eiffel Tower worth it? So, obviously, we actually have that. The best place to view the Eiffel Tower at night. That could be a really good article. And if I actually search that, this person's actually done that. So then we're basically what we're trying to look at are questions. So, for example, parts with view of Eiffel Tower. Again, if we search that, as you can see here, for example, these guys have actually got it. Where to get the best view of the Eiffel Tower. So all of these would actually be questions that we would want to be actually having on our actual sheet. So, what do locals in Paris call the Eiffel Tower? I don't actually know that answer. So it's got a different name. Who knew? So obviously you've got all of these different questions. Basically, what we're trying to do is find other relevant articles to help us rank for Eiffel Tower guide or guide to the Eiffel Tower. Obviously, you could be doing that for all of your different keywords. So, for example, we could actually do the same thing for French wine. What are the best French wines you've ever tasted or heard of? And then we've got a question about French wine. So, wine novice, a cheap person's guide to fancy French wine. So you could actually write that as an article on your own website. I'm in France. What wine should I buy? So you've got all of these different types, right? One thing to bear in mind is that you want to make certain that the articles that you're obviously uploading from Reddit, it actually makes sense to upload. Like, for example, let's take a look. Let me try and find a completely irrelevant. Need help with French wine. Like, for example, right, recommendations on French wine. I wouldn't recommend writing an article with this being your actual page title, because the user intent behind that is Google wants a website like Reddit or Quora ranking for that. Like, it's going to be very, very hard to actually rank for something like that, especially if you don't have like a section on your website talking about a variety of different wines, which we don't want to probably go into. But obviously, talking about the top 10 French wines, it's fine to do that. Now, we can also do the exact same thing for Quora as well. So if we do, for example, French travel, we could obviously run through questions on Quora that are also doing that. You could also do the exact same thing for YouTube as well. So, for example, French for travelers, 6 important but overlooked French travel tips. So you've got all of these, but obviously make certain that you don't have content overlap as well when you are looking at doing a topical map. So now that we've got that, now I'm going to show you guys the way that I do it on paid tools. So if we actually load up Ahrefs, and if we click on reddit.com, right, what we want to basically do here is, once it actually has loaded, in some cases it just doesn't load. Knowing my luck, it's probably not going to load. Let's hope it does. So it's loaded in the keywords. What we want to do is click on more filters and then click on keyword and then search for France travel, for example. And then click on apply. And this is basically going to give us a load of articles that Reddit's actually ranking for, that we aren't ranking for. So, for example, you could do a France travel guide and also a south of France travel guide, because that's going to be completely different intents behind that. So, as you can see, south of France travel guide, Riviera, etc. Then, obviously, one thing that we've got also on our website is the eSIM France travel. Then we've got like Air France travel insurance. Air France is a flight, so I might not recommend doing that one. France travel itinerary. So this would be something that I would actually be looking to actually upload through to my website. And then one thing to bear in mind, right, is obviously we've just searched this as being our keyword. So what I would be doing here is I would have that as my actual main keyword. I would have supporting keywords as well. So one thing that you can also do is, if we actually load up that page, we've got keywords here. If we actually click on keywords, then we've got all of these supporting keywords. So we've got like France trip itinerary. I've definitely butchered that. We can also do the search volume of the combined main keyword and also search volume for all the secondary keywords. You don't need to do this, but if you want to, you can. But we'll do like, let's say 5,000, right? And then we can also look at the user questions here, right? So if I actually search France travel, and if we take a look here, so how many days are enough for France? So that would be a keyword or a question that I want to actually include within that article. Then we have got how many days do you need to visit? How many days do you need a tour of France? Can you do France in 7 days? How to see France in 10 days? So these would all be questions that I would want to actually include within my article. And if we actually search all of these as well, right? So we've got like 1 week in France, 6 ways to spend 7 days in France. That's a bit of a tongue twister. But all of these basically make sense to actually have within our content, right? And one thing to bear in mind as well is that your articles don't need like 25 questions. It's also fine to just have maybe 1 or 2 questions within your actual article. But that has actually been the that's been the video on how to create a topical map. Feel free to check out the actual article. Feel free to actually get the topical map helper. If you guys do get it, just make certain to click on file and then make a copy down here. But that's been a video on how to create a topical map. I think I did say at the start of this video it's probably going to be about a 40-minute video, and right now we are at 41 minutes and 20 seconds. But if you guys have enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like. And as always, if you guys do want a growth strategy call for your website, make certain to check out casualdash.com and fill in the contact form, and I will get back to you.